Let's dive into it today with a new, not necessarily a new project, but it's a project that has been created through a partnership, and that is COTI and Cardano. Let's dive a little deeper. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Tech Path. As you guys know, we jump into a lot of these kind of projects a little more intricately, especially as they start to develop over time. And one that we have been watching, of course, has been kind of this evolution of what's happening with COTI and Cardano. Part of this actually came out in a video we did, I think it was on September 16th or so, where we were unveiling a lot of our altcoins to watch in October. One of those, of course, was COTI, and there were many reasons for that, some of which were the partnerships with Cardano, but even more so, some of the outer lying functions of what COTI was trying to do as basically kind of a network. So I want to jump into this first story today. Cardano to enable, this happened of course on Sunday at the Cardano Summit, Cardano to enable the new DeFi stablecoin with COTI. And what this simply means is that Cardano will have its own blockchain stablecoin basically available to them. Part of this is Cardano's payment gateway provider, which is COTI, will be the official issuer of a stablecoin called Djed. I think that's the way you pronounce it, D-J-E-D, Djed. A new DeFi-focused stablecoin for the Cardano network. Of course, this was released over at the event on Sunday, and part of this was also with COTI's CEO, Shahaf Bargeffen, announced, of course, at the event and the summit. Some of what I was seeing, though, at the summit in terms of just some of the partnerships and just kind of the evolution, this gets me back to a topic and a point with Cardano, is, and I've talked about this even with our team internally, is the pricing currently with Cardano a little baked into the project releases that they've had out. So Cardano's payment gateway provider, COTI, will be the official issuer of the Djed, which is basically the new DeFi-focused stablecoin for the Cardano network. Cardano, of course, their founder, Charles Hoskinson, released this on Sunday with Shahaf Bargeffen, who is basically the person over at COTI that's kind of running this whole element. And kind of these partnerships that have really created, I think, some great and interesting opportunities, not only for Cardano, but also just for blockchain in general. And when you look back at what this one is going to do, which is intriguing to me, the new stablecoin will be based on an algorithmic design using smart contracts, which is what Cardano had to put in place to ensure stability and providing instrument for DeFi transactions. Good, solid. The stablecoin also will be designed for paying transaction fees on the Cardano network in order to avoid the volatile and exorbitant gas fees. This, of course, is taking a strike right at the heart of Ethereum before Ethereum rotates out into 2.0. And there's a lot happening in Ethereum around 2.0. We're going to be doing a video on that, so be on the lookout for why there are some big things happening with ETH and kind of the evolution of where ETH is going. And part of this is really kind of what's happening in China. I'll get to that one a little bit later, but back to what Djed is doing. The research paper that was released in August, its Stablecoin Protocol will behave like an autonomous bank that buys and sells stablecoins for a price in a range that is pegged to a target price. The stablecoin will also operate by maintaining a reserve of base coins while minting and burning various other stable assets as reserve coins. So again, a really great model when you look at what COTI is doing. And it's one of the reasons we picked COTI as one of the projects to really keep an eye on in October. And timing was perfect. Obviously, part of that had to do with what the partnership was doing with Cardano and the evolution of also other things that COTI is doing themselves, including, I think it's this week, they're actually releasing their own credit cards. So COTI Pay will be a part of that bigger picture that is going to start to evolve into many other project partnerships that I can imagine, along with potentially some other traditional DeFi, I shouldn't say traditional, but other DeFi partnerships. I just wonder, is this something that we could see that could start to move into some of these emerging financial or FinTech companies that are looking for these kinds of solutions in terms of a potential, one, stablecoin, but also the architecture in which they could use this for, one, creating potential bank accounts and also this kind of connectivity to the Visa or to any kind of debit card platform, which is what COTI Pay is trying to do. So you look back at the stablecoin, this could be a game changer for the crypto industry. Back to the industry, as it's basically an entirely new audience at the time when the industry is really experiencing already astronomical growth. Here is my concern, if I have any, and that is the attack on stablecoins as it goes. We are starting to see a lot of pressures, obviously from central banks, but also from, I think, governments and also sovereign nations as we start to move into this. However, COTI could be in a position to kind of circumvent all of that in these customized platforms for their partners. And those partners, of course, could be in many companies or any kind of organization out there outside even the crypto space. So a lot happening with what was happening on the Cardano Summit this weekend. I want to jump over to their website and just kind of take you as a tour through what they have happening. So basically, you've got a breakthrough in digital payments and financing. COTI Pay can access all payment types, online, offline, including crypto, stablecoins, etc. I think this kind of company that, especially with where COTI currently is in their investment, we're going to look at a chart here in a second. When we put these together, it's kind of cool. But one thing to remember when you look at projects like this is you have to look at kind of the array of what they're offering. And I want to jump to just the products section right here. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. COTI Pay, then you have the payment network, then of course the stablecoin program, and here's the two that I think have a lot of potential, and that is the loyalty network and the remittance technology. The remittance technology is the one that I think has the infrastructure capability, and it kind of goes back to once you move outside of what projects like XRP and what Ripple is doing essentially. Remember, you don't need XRP to actually Ripple to operate their business model, but what Ripple is doing in terms of these transaction fees, there's going to be a whole layer. Remember, the Ripple is dealing with much more central bank, large organization, institutional. There is a whole layer of potentials here within the regional banking system. You probably just saw one of our videos with Vast Bank and their CEO and their CTO, and they were really kind of talking about this whole element. And what they've been able to do with Vast is they're actually connecting out to Coinbase for custody and also integrating some of these payment rails to give their customers the ability to start utilizing all this tech, which is the issue. Now, why is this so important to not only crypto, but for really more importantly for banking in general? Remember that banking though, and this is something that I've believed for a while, is that I believe that we are in a situation right now where these regional and mid-size, and even to a certain extent, maybe even the big seven, are in the throes of developing a very robust architecture and rail system to essentially circumvent the old model. It's just going to take time. It's also why we might be seeing so much pushback and FUD in the industry, because these guys are essentially trying to build this, kind of like the old adage, you're flying the plane and fixing it too at the same time. That's where I think the banking system right now is. COTI is one of these projects that could really make it a lot easier for these organizations. Look what they've been able or will be able to do for Cardano. You also have the other aspect of the pay product, which I want to jump over to COTI Pay and really kind of where this is going, because this is something I think that a lot of people are losing the effect of this. So it's processing all payment types, both online, offline, crypto, stable, credit cards, and even merchants native coin. Get that. Merchants native coin. It also has a built-in financing with interest earned and deposits on business loans. This is going to get very creative on how this could be functionally put into systems, both other banking systems and maybe COTI themselves, in terms of creating a whole entire new network. Think of this much like Square, what Twitter and Square has been able to do in terms of a payment infrastructure and being able to get to that next level. Crypto doesn't necessarily have that, even though I think there are some functionality if you look at the Lightning Network and what Mallers is doing and those kind of things. But no one particular independent group or project has really attacked it, I think, as dominantly as potentially what COTI has been able to do right here. So I think this has a really big, cool feature. I want to also feature out something right here, which is their white label payment network. This goes back to exactly what they're doing for Cardano. Traditional payment systems cost consumers and merchants billions of dollars every year. Imagine a global payment network of users and merchants transacting freely on your own payment method, digital wallet, coin, and more. So this has a much more, I won't call it lofty, but it is more of a lofty goal of what COTI is trying to do. It may be a little early for that, but the point that we are seeing is that they are building that infrastructure and the rails to put that in place. This, I think, is one of those projects much like a Solana in the early days. And when I say early days, back when you could have bought Solana at, under 50 cents. If you look at that, or back, if you look at what's going really on with Avalanche right now, or if you look at what's happening with Algorithmic, all these kinds of projects had entry points not too long ago that were very similar to what's happening in the early stages right now with COTI. COTI simply is getting the benefit of the Cardano ecosystem and the Cardano fan club and that whole community to really blow this up. So I think there's an opportunity here for an investment. Now, when we do these market movers, the goal here is we'll pull these pieces of information together, we put a little bit of data, and we'll overlay that into it, give you guys basically some stuff to start going out and doing your own research and at least get you moving in the right direction, and kind of put these dots together, because no one else is really kind of breaking it down the way we do, in the sense of really understanding the sentiment scores, how that really relates to it. All right, before we jump to the chart here on COTI's analysis and where we think this might be going, I want to thank, of course, our sponsor for today's show, and that is iTrust Capital. If you guys don't know them, iTrust Capital is a crypto IRA platform that is absolutely fantastic. But one of the things that I've been able to do and really kind of looked at in terms of a tax strategy is something that I was researching earlier this year. It's called tax loss harvesting. The way it simply works is, if, let's say, for instance, you had, 5 coins that were worth $5,000, and these coins were losing money in your portfolio. The idea behind tax loss harvesting is you could sell that asset off and then reinvest it in a more favorable asset, or in this particular case, drop it into a crypto IRA. Now, you can't use it for the same exact asset, because that's called washing, I believe is how they call that. If you have so many days that you can reinvest into that same. So if, let's say, for instance, for whatever reason, maybe you sold Cardano and then reinvested back into Cardano, that would not work. But if you sold Cardano and reinvested back into Bitcoin, that works. Let me kind of jump into this. So it's a strategy that helped investors minimize their taxes that they may own based on capital gains and also regular income. So even if you're not, let's say you don't have a ton of capital gains that you're going to take this year, you still have regular income. This still works with regular income offsetting some of those regular incomes. So tax loss harvesting is a strategy that can help investors minimize any taxes they may owe on capital gains or regular income. Sometimes the investment could have lost value. That's the big thing. For a married couple, you can filing jointly up to $3,000 per year in realized capital gain losses can be used to offset these types of taxes. So that's a big deal if you think about it, just taking a $3,000 move and pushing it over there. The IRS does ban, though, those from deducting a capital loss on the sale of a security against the capital gain of the same security. Now, I know this is a question mark as to whether crypto is a security, but this model would be called a wash sale, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. I want to jump over to iTrust Capital and really kind of just talk a little bit about them, because they really get going on how this program works. You're going to get a free month from them. I just want you to click the link below, use our code. That's going to get a free month to get your IRA set up. You can either move an IRA over to it, or you have to invest in this IRA via fiat money. So let's say you sold a Cardano. Well, I won't say you will sell a Cardano, but let's say you sold some of your coins that weren't doing well. We'll call them secondary coins. You sell those off, you take your tax loss, you reinvest that back into your crypto IRA, and you purchase Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. And now you're into this over here. You've got your tax benefit from those losses, because otherwise you're sitting on that over there until they go positive. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to take that benefit, take that loss, harvest it, tax loss harvesting, be able to put it into something that you know is going to move, hence, and it's going to protect you from the gains because you're in the IRA. So big strategies here. We're heading down toward the end of the year. A lot of you should be looking at strategies like this. So jump over to iTrust Capital. Just go to itrustcapital.com. You're going to find out all about it, and of course, you can get into all sorts of things in terms of self-trade currency, cryptocurrency, physical gold, etc., right there from your own retirement account. So you can trade right there within it. All right, let's jump over to the COTI chart and explain a little bit more about what I'm talking about, and really kind of explain something that a lot of people are, and I get so many DMs about this, of how we do technical analysis, because we kind of split our camp in two groups. We have our analyst team that really goes into basically money flow. It's looking at the chart like any other typical chart analyst would look at it, including a person that's looking at it from a stance of investing in S&P 500. A lot of those tool sets are very similar, with the exception of crypto has a little bit more functionality. We look at it in a completely different way when I say the other side of the house, which is more from the driving or leading indicator for any of these projects, especially in cryptocurrency and also blockchain, is through sentiment and amplification. Sentiment is just simple natural language process analysis that's looking at basically machine level language, that's looking at the amount of content that's coming in on a particular topic. Let's say for now it's COTI, and what that can mean in terms of overall sentiment. People loving it, not liking it, I'm selling, I'm holding, etc. All of that flows into basically an NLP database that analyzes the sentiment level. That's how it works. When you look at the chart, it's a perfect example of how you can read one of these and follow into where we've been pushing it. And we have been somewhat spot on. I would say around 70 to 80% accurate in terms of our predictive cones, but more importantly, of some of the projects that we are starting to pick out early and say, there's something happening here. We can't quite put a pinch on it, but something's up. And this is a good example. So back here in September, early September, COTI was trading right there at 39 cents. Trading right here, September, you had the amplification and sentiment, 52.37. AMP is a little soft, and sure enough, amplification did not see a lot of movement. We actually saw the bottom right there at 29 cents, and you see a little bit of movement upwards, and then right here is when we did the video. Remember, we're doing all of our research usually about 3 to 4 days, if not a week, in advance of that before we drop a video. But we dropped our COTI alts in October, right here on September 17th. It took a little bit more pump, and then we saw a big dump. Now, during this dump, this is where we were looking at it and saying, this is not normal, something's up. The not normal part is the 65.19 sentiment during a dump and the amplification holding at 71.52. In fact, 71.52 is an insanely high amplification when you look at what it was just a little bit earlier, 10 days earlier. So again, this bubble identified something was up, and then what happens? We see this parabolic move to COTI's high right here at 68 cents. Back down here from where you got in at basically around 28 cents. So almost 3x on moving into that direction. And really what it's erratic, it's a little bit erratic here. The fact is that we saw a lot of movement. I think a lot of this was pinned over to what was happening that was already baked into the Cardano ecosystem. And that, of course, had a lot more effect on what was happening here with COTI. When you kind of back this out, and I want to kind of look back at the 6 month here, you can kind of see the movement here. Not a lot of typical movement. So this really was the first time we started to identify something is afoot with COTI. We were able to pop the video right before she went and kind of showed her hand before we saw a little bit of a dip. And then that, of course, is when the sentiment kind of showed the scenario that kind of rolled out into where. Now, can that mean that COTI is going to hold? We still think this has some upward movement. And this all goes into around the 1st of October, which is still a few days away. But we do still think there's some upward movement. Obviously, it's already showing upward movement, mainly because I think we are going to see more and more press coming out around COTI's dropping their debit card, their credit cards, dropping their COTI Pay program, which eventually will be tied to somewhat of a bank account, and getting into that whole virtual banking system and how that starts to relate to other partnerships. This could be one of those projects that really has a lot to offer in the coming months and over a longer period of time. Maybe could be one of the major players in how all of these altcoins really roll out. And again, a lot of this I think is shaping up, and we're going to do a video on this, shaping up very similar to the 2017 fall run-up of Bitcoin and what happened to the altcoins at that same time. COTI, I think, is one of those. Again, falls back to our video that we did back on our altcoin video for October that we did on September the 17th, which was kind of an interesting point of reflection when we look back on all these charts. Again, as we do these, we love to get your comments. The number one thing is if you have a project for us that you can help identify, or you have something that's coming up that you think, hey, maybe we should take a look a little closer under the hood of a project, that's where we would love to kind of get involved on those. Obviously, there's hundreds, if not thousands of projects that really are on the doorstep of doing something very unique or different. You, in the Diamond Circle, into the Tech Path Nation, are the ones that really help us do that. So drop the comments below, give us your thoughts on where that's going. And of course, if you want to reach me out on Twitter, just hit me up at Paul Barron. That's the best place to reach me. And again, easy stuff, man. We've got some big news coming. Really, as we've talked a little bit about Diamond Circle, it is coming. We're planning an October 7th launch, so next week here as according to this filming. What that simply means is we of the Diamond Circle are really going to start doing something to help you, our community, and that is giving back to you. That's right. We're going to be doing airdrops of real digital assets back to our community to help you guys kind of grow in your own financial journey and kind of get you moving in that direction. But the best thing you can do is help others do the same thing. Don't be holding all this information in within your own communities. You've got to share this information out there to those who really maybe are struggling, or maybe they haven't made the shift to crypto. Maybe they haven't made the shift to thinking much more around what innovative technologies are going to do. So you have to kind of make that commitment. I hope all of you are doing that. If you're watching our channel, and most likely you're already in that mindset. So thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.